4 years ago, my life transformed in ways I never could have predicted. Sure, I hit the jackpot, winning $25 million. But the real story isn't the money. It's what I discovered about my family's true colors. Let me set the stage with some context, because it matters. I'm a 37-year-old guy from Columbus, Ohio, always the overlooked middle child in a family full of loud personalities. Never the star, never the troublemaker, just the one who faded into the background. You probably know the type. I worked as a diesel mechanic for a shipping company, clocking 11-hour shifts in freezing garages, fixing massive trucks. My boss, Roy Miller, was the kind of guy who thought yelling was a leadership style. My paycheck barely covered rent for a rundown duplex straight out of the 90s. My family dynamic, complicated to put it mildly. Let me introduce the players who shaped my childhood and early adulthood. My older brother, Brad Carter, 40, was always the golden child. Right out of high school, our parents, Janet and Frank Carter, handed him the funds to start a construction business. Not a loan, mind you, just straight-up cash for tools, property, and startup costs. Brad cruises around in shiny new trucks every few years, posts cheesy rise and grind quotes on social media, and genuinely believes he's a self-made man. The disconnect is unreal. He acts like he clawed his way up from nothing, when really our parents paved the way. Brad's the guy who casually brags about the price of everything he owns. Just got an $82,000 truck, he'll say. You know how it is when you're killing it in business. No, Brad, I don't, because some of us didn't get a head start. Then there's my younger brother, Tyler Carter, 32, still camped out in our parents' basement. He's perpetually between gigs, chasing the next big thing, which usually means gaming until 3 a.m. Mom still makes him sandwiches, cut into triangles like he's a kid. Tyler's got a talent for making joblessness sound like ambition. Every few months, he's got a new, game-changing, app idea or crypto scheme that's going to make millions. Spoiler, they never do. My sister Rachel Carter, 34, is a single mom working part-time at a salon, raising her 9-year-old daughter, Lily, mostly on her own after her ex bilayed to Phoenix. Rachel scrapes by, barely covering rent, but she never complains. She's the type to share pictures of Lily's school projects on social media with captions like, "So proud of my little star," while cycling through the same 3 outfits because every penny goes to her kid. Then there's me, the invisible one. When I lost my apartment at 29 because the landlord sold the building and didn't renew leases, guess who didn't get offered a place to crash? Exactly. My parents had a fully finished basement, empty except for Tyler's gaming rig. Instead, I spent 7 weeks sleeping in my truck in random parking lots, showering at a 24-hour gym, and trying to hold onto my self-respect as my life unraveled. The lowest point came 15 months later when my truck's transmission gave out. It wasn't just a hassle, it was a full-blown crisis. No truck meant no way to get to work, and no work meant no way to fix the truck. The repair bill was $3,600, and I had about $200 in my bank account. So I swallowed my pride and called Brad, laid out my situation, and asked for a loan, not a handout with interest and a repayment plan. I even offered to work extra hours at his company to pay it off. Brad listened to my whole story, then burst out laughing, not just a chuckle but a gut-busting cackle like I'd told the world's funniest joke. "Maybe it's time to face it," he said between laughs. "You're just not built for much. Some people are meant for success, others, well, they're meant for something else." Those words burned into my brain, echoing every time something went wrong. I ended up taking a 400% interest payday loan to fix the truck, spending the next 9 months eating instant noodles and peanut butter to pay it off. Fast forward to 4 years ago. It was a frigid February night, and I'd just finished a grueling shift that made me question every choice I'd ever made. 11 hours crawling under icy trucks, hydraulic fluid in my hair, and Roy Miller chewing me out for problems that predated me. On my way home, I stopped at a gas station, partly for fuel, partly because my truck's heater was on the fritz, and I needed a few minutes in a warm building. The place was nearly empty, just me, the cashier, and a trucker grabbing energy drinks for a long haul. I had $50 in my wallet, meant to last until my next paycheck. Gas cost $37, leaving me $13 for food for the weekend. But then I saw the scratch-off tickets behind the counter. I'm not a gambler. Maybe I'd bought 5 lottery tickets in my life, all duds. But something about that night felt different. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was Brad's voice still ringing in my head. Maybe it was the absurdity of being 34 with $13 to my name. I pulled out a $15 bill. "Give me one of those $15 tickets," I told the clerk, pointing to a game called Millionaires Club. He handed me the ticket and a penny to scratch it. I could have waited until I got home, but the truck was freezing and the store was warm, so I scratched it right there. First box, $600,000. Okay, that's the big prize amount, nothing weird. Second box, $600,000. Odd coincidence, but still. Third box, $600,000. My heart started pounding like a drum. I read the rules on the tickets back twice, then 3 times. Match 3 amounts, win that sum. I just won $600,000, but hold on, it gets wilder. I looked closer and realized I'd misread it. This wasn't a $600,000 prize. It was $25 million, which after taxes came to $16.2 million. I stood in that gas station for 6 minutes, staring at the ticket, waiting for the numbers to vanish or someone to say it was a mistake. The cashier asked if I was okay. The trucker suggested I sit down. I muttered something about needing air and stumbled to my truck. In the parking lot, engine running, I stared at the ticket until my eyes burned. I snapped photos of it from every angle with my phone, then Googled the Lottery Commission's number and called their 24-hour validation line, entering the serial number with shaking hands. "Congratulations," the automated voice said. "This appears to be a winning ticket. Please contact us during business hours to begin the claim process." I drove home in total silence, radio off. At my apartment, I sealed the ticket in a Ziploc bag, then another, and locked it in a fireproof safe I'd bought years ago for important papers. I sat on my couch, staring at the wall until dawn. The lottery office opened at 8 a.m. Monday. I was there by 7:30, first in line, wearing my cleanest pants and a button-up shirt from a job interview 2 years earlier. The process was straightforward, but took a week. Lawyers, financial advisors, tax experts. Suddenly, I had a team making sure I didn't blow $16.2 million like some reality TV cautionary tale. My financial advisor, Corinne Whitfield, a no-nonsense woman who'd managed lottery winners for 16 years, said, "The money won't change who you are, but it'll show you who everyone else is." We set up a trust, spread the investments, and created passive income streams. Conservative projections estimated $700,000 a year without touching the principal. Even if I splurged, the money would last forever. But here's the thing. I didn't want to splurge, not yet. I kept working, living in my crummy duplex, driving my beat-up Silverado. The only change? I'd catch myself smiling at random moments, like when Roy Miller screamed about quotas or I saw Brad's latest post about his empire. I had a plan brewing, a way to answer a question that had haunted me for years. If I really needed help, would my family show up? I was about to find out. 3 weeks after the win, I started my experiment. I called my parents first, figuring I'd begin with the people supposed to love me no matter what. "Dad," I said, "I need to talk about something serious." I spun a tale. My company had been cutting hours for months and finally let me go. My truck's transmission was shot again, and the repair cost more than the vehicle's value. My landlord was jacking up rent, and I couldn't afford it on unemployment. My father, Frank, listened, then launched into a speech about how tough times build character and real men figure things out. My mother, Janet, offered gems like, "Have you prayed about it? And everything happens for a purpose." When I asked if they could help me get back on my feet, maybe let me stay in Tyler's old room for a few weeks while I job hunted, the conversation got awkward. "Son," Dad said, "your mom and I are on a fixed income. We can't support grown kids who should be supporting themselves." This from the guy who'd cut Brad an $80,000 check for business gear 4 years earlier. "We'll pray for you," Mom added, "but you've got to solve your own problems." I thanked them and hung up. 1 down, 3 to go. Brad was next. I called him the next evening around dinner time, knowing he'd be home. "Bro," I said, feigning desperation, "I'm in deep trouble." I told him the same story, jobless, truck broken, facing eviction. I asked if I could work at his company temporarily. Brad went quiet for a long moment, and I thought maybe I'd misjudged him. Maybe family meant something after all. Then he said, "You know, I might have something for you." My heart lifted. Maybe blood was thicker than water. "I need someone to clean the office and shop after hours," he continued. "It's $9 an hour, maybe 20 hours a week, so you're not just moping around." $9 an hour. The federal minimum wage was $7.50, so he was technically being generous with the extra $1.50. "Brad," I said, "I was making $24 an hour at the shop." I've got 15 years of mechanic experience. Don't you have any real mechanic jobs? Look, he replied, his tone dripping with condescension, beggars can't be picky. Take the cleaning gig or don't, but stop expecting handouts just because we're family. Asking for a job was somehow asking for charity. I said I'd think about it and hung up. Tyler's response was exactly what I expected. Man, that's rough, he said. I'd help if I could, but you know how it is. Yeah, Tyler, I know, you're 32 and your biggest bill is Xbox Live, but Rachel was different. I called her last, partly because I didn't want to pull her into this test, and partly because I knew she'd try to help, even if she had nothing to give. Oh my gosh, she said after I laid out my fake crisis. Why didn't you call me sooner? Before I could answer, she was making plans. Could she come over tonight? Did I have enough food, warm clothes? I don't have much, she admitted, but I've got $70 in my emergency stash and it's yours. My couch is yours for as long as you need it. $70 from someone who had to pick between groceries and gas every week. Rachel, I said, I can't take your emergency money. Yes, you can, she insisted. That's what family's for. We look out for each other. She showed up that night with the $70, a bag of groceries, and a container of leftover lasagna. She set up her couch with her own sheets and pillows, gave me a spare key to her place, and told me not to worry about anything except getting back on track. That $70 meant more to me than the $16.2 million in my account. While my family thought I was job hunting, I was building something I'd dreamed of for years. Through a shell company, I bought a modest warehouse on the edge of town, 9,000 square feet of concrete and high ceilings. I turned it into a custom truck and off-road vehicle shop, not just for repairs but for full-on builds. Lift kits, high-performance engines, custom paint jobs, the works. It was everything I'd ever wanted but never had the cash for. My first hires were Tommy Alvarez and Luis Ramirez, guys I'd worked with at the freight company. They were the ones who'd given me rides when my truck was down, covered my lunch when I was broke, and treated me like a person, not a problem. Tommy teared up when I offered them jobs at double their old pay with full health benefits. Louis asked 3 times if I was for real before even glancing at the contract. How'd you afford this? Tommy asked, eyeing the shop. I got lucky, I said, technically true. Setting up the business took 8 months of meticulous planning, licenses, insurance, equipment, inventory. I learned more about running a business in that time than Brad had in his whole cushy career. The best part, I stayed under the radar. People heard about the new shop, but no one connected it to me. I was just the guy who vanished after getting laid off, probably off to another city for work. Meanwhile, I kept playing the struggling, jobless brother when I saw my family. I'd stop by Rachel's every few days, looking slightly defeated but grateful for any help she offered. She never made me feel like a burden. During one visit, she mentioned Brad's business was hitting rough patches, customer complaints piling up, projects over budget, and he'd had to fire 2 employees the month before. He's stressed out, she said. He even snapped at Lily for just being a kid. I told him if he ever talks to my daughter like that again, family or not, we're done. That was interesting, very interesting. About 18 months into my unemployment, I did something more rewarding than winning the lottery. I bought Rachel a house. Not a mansion, nothing to raise red flags, just a cozy 3-bedroom brick home in a quiet area with great schools. It had a fenced backyard for Lily to play in, a 2-car garage, and most importantly, it was in a school district that could give Lily opportunities Rachel never dreamed of. I had my financial advisor, Corinne Whitfield, set it up through a dummy company, and my lawyer, Jonathan Price, approached Rachel with a story about her being selected for a single-mother housing program that covered the full purchase price. Rachel was skeptical at,